Whew. Oh my goodness, this is so heavy. Oh, I'm sweating like crazy. Oof. Hi, what's up everyone? So today we're gonna try to balance my camera on the new Zhiyun Crane 2S that I just got. And if you didn't see my unboxing video, check it out. And this is a heavy duty gimbal that can handle something that is as heavy as a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K that I have, or even heavier because of all the powerful motors that it has. As I said in the previous video, this gimbal is super heavy. And by the gimbal itself, it's almost as heavy as some setups that has the gimbal and the camera on top already. So that's something you might need to consider when you're trying to get this gimbal. But if you have a heavy camera, that's all you can do, because all the gimbals that can handle such a weight will have big motors and it's going to be heavy. And also, this is probably the cheapest gimbal that can handle such a big weight or heavy weight. Something to keep in mind when you are setting up your gimbal is you have to put this tripod leg at the bottom. You just need to screw it on, but make sure you have it tightened up like really tight, because when I was setting this up, I didn't tighten it up like tight enough and it was like wobbling, and it was really dangerous because after you put the camera on top, it will be super top heavy. Oh, by the way, if I'm looking kind of weird in this video because I'm not filming with my Pocket 6K, I'm filming with my Panasonic G7, and I try to focus everything manually on the product or on the gimbal and the camera instead of my face, so my face might be out of focus. Sorry about that. Again, make sure that you tighten the tripod like really securely, because it's going to be really dangerous if you have the camera on top and you have a wobbling like tripod legs. Okay, I'm just going to quickly talk about the setup that I have. I have the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K right here with the Sigma 18-35 f1.8 lens. This is probably the most commonly used lens on almost like all kinds of setup. And I have a tilter cage. This is the tilter full cage, and I have the tilter top handle right here. I have the Samsung SSD, the T5 SSD with the mount and with some cable, and also I am using a tilter battery plate for the NPF, Sony NPF style battery to power the entire setup right here. I am not using a V-mount battery because it's going to be super heavy on this gimbal, but yet I want some decent battery life, so I choose to have this battery plate right here on the top handle. And this is just a smaller NPF battery. If you mount a bigger one there, it's not that much bigger. And this setup would last me, I would say, like 1 hour of filming time. And this is hot swappable as well, because I have the regular Canon LP battery in the pocket camera. So if this one dies, I can just swap it out and it will still continue to record. So this is my setup, no V-mount battery. And I have like a kind of like a strap right here for me to kind of secure it when I'm doing handheld kind of shoot. But this is my entire setup. I'm not going to remove everything, or actually I'm not going to remove anything, just to fit it on the gimbal to show you that this gimbal can actually handle such a heavy setup. Before you put the camera on the gimbal, make sure that you remove anything that you don't need during the shoot, including something as small as the lens cap. So this is something you need to remove because it will throw the balance off. So remove that. This is gonna be the entire setup on the gimbal. And another thing to notice when you're setting up the Crane 2S is the plate that they use. They said it's Manfrotto compatible. Yes, it is, but it's actually a little different compared to the Manfrotto plate. As you can see here, the Manfrotto plate is a little bit shorter. So if you have a setup like mine that is kind of a front heavy setup with a long lens, choose to use this Zhiyun plate that they provide for the gimbal, because you want to set your camera as far back as possible because the front is heavy. So this short little difference will give you a big difference when you try to balance the camera on the gimbal. So use this one. This one can still fit any Manfrotto tripod. It's just a little bit longer. So use this one. All right. And one more thing that kind of gave me a hard time when I was trying to set up this gimbal was this plate right here, the side sliding in kind of plate. This one right here with the stock plate that they provide is super tight. Trust me, it's extremely tight to a point that I was having so much trouble trying to fit it in, and I actually scratched the plate already. So yeah, just be prepared. You will have to put a lot of strength to slide it in. Like, you see that I'm trying so hard to push it in. Yeah, so I would suggest you to maybe try to put it in first, like slide it into almost the marking that you are about to set the camera on, and just leave it there before you even mount the whole thing onto the camera. So my marking for my setup is about like 10-ish, so that's why I have it slide in like this. And I have 2 thumb screws that I have already in there so I can mount the plate onto the camera. So now I'm just gonna mount this plate onto the camera. And as I said before, try to have this as far back as possible. So have your camera not here, but all the way to the back, just to make sure that it's not front heavy as much as before. So let me try to put this on. I'm using 2 screws just to make sure that it doesn't slide. And this is not easy as well because of the weight of my camera. This is so heavy. Okay, I'm just gonna try to do this and show you guys how it works. So with 2 screws, you don't really have to align it because you have 2 screws already, so it's not gonna swing left and right. It will just be straight. So this is how it should look like. You should have the plate sitting right at the back of the camera like this and sticking out this part. Especially if you're using a long lens, you need to use the lens support. That's why you want to stick this plate as far to the front as possible. And this is where the thumb screws are. I'm just gonna tighten it with the coin. Always tighten it. Like, try to tighten everything securely before you power on the gimbal, because this is a really heavy setup. As I said, you don't want to drop your camera. Yep, I almost dropped it when I was trying to figure it out. And by the way, it took me almost like 2 hours just to figure out how this thing works. So yep, I hope that this video is not gonna be 2 hours long. So this is how it looks like with the plate at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that this is the part that you slide into the gimbal, which is gonna be this part right here. This bottom part is where you slide this thing in there, this one right here. It's so hard to do it when I'm looking at the camera at the same time. Okay, so I'm just gonna slide in. It will just click. Make sure you hear the click. That's a lock. That means it's locked in. If you don't hear the click, that means it's not locked in. So just slowly slide in. Oh, you hear the click, right? By the way, before you even slide the thing in, make sure that all the axes are locked and the pan, oh no, this is the tilt axis. And the lock is right here. This is the roll axis. The lock is at the bottom. For some reason, I don't like it. I really don't like it because I don't know why they put the lock at the bottom. It's really hard to figure out. And also, the pan axis lock is right here on the side. This one is fine. So when you put the camera in there, make sure that you slide the camera in as much as possible, because as you can see right now, the camera and the lens is so far off compared to the motor, to the back motor. The camera, it's like to the left too much. So try to slide it in as much as you can. Just leave like maybe a millimeter or 2 millimeter gap between the camera and the lever that controls this up-down movement. You will see it. You'll eventually see it when you try to slide it in. Just don't touch it, but then just don't let them touch, but leave like a millimeter or 2 millimeter gap on there. And then you'll be using this bottom lever to lock the sliding of this. So the camera is now securely installed. Okay, just test it by pulling it a little bit, not too hard. All right, so that's how you put the camera in there. The first thing that we want to balance, I always thought that we want to balance the tilt axis by sliding the plate, but actually the first axis you want to, or the first lever that you want to remove or release is this one right here, the one that controls the entire setup up and down. So if you release this, the whole thing will shift up and down. This is how you should do it, at least like that's how I do it. So you want to release the tilt axis by unlocking it. So now when you tilt the camera slightly, you'll see that it's kind of back heavy. That means I need to release this lever and move the camera a little bit lower. If I tilt it up, it shouldn't be swinging to the back like right now. It's still kind of back heavy. So I'm just gonna release it again and then slide the entire setup down, like lower it. I know it's really hard to see the camera movement, but I'm moving the camera completely up and down like this. So release it, slide it a little bit until it's completely balanced. It's not gonna tilt. Oh, it's kind of front heavy now, but this is not bad at all. So if it's not tilting to the back, that's good. If it's now tilting to the front, that's where we should use the plate to adjust it. So you want to release this. I forgot to lock it. Swing it to the front, it's locked. Swing it to the back, it's released. Yeah, just remember to lock everything because it's really dangerous. I almost dropped my camera. So I want to make sure that it's not front heavy. Now it's front heavy, so I want to slide this plate a little bit back. Again, I really don't know why they made it so tight. It's super hard to slide this plate. You have to go like, I'm like sweating already. Okay, so now this is balanced. So remember to lock it by swinging this lever to the front like this. So now this is balanced. Whoa. Oh, it's still front heavy. All right, so maybe I should lower the camera again. Again, it takes a lot of patience to do this at the beginning, but that's pretty much it. You don't need to do it over and over again. And also this gimbal is super powerful, so if it's a little bit off, it's not too bad. Don't panic. It should still be able to handle the weight. So after you finish balancing the tilt axis, lock it. Make sure you hear the click, make sure it's locked. Everything is locked, make sure that all the levers are locked. Don't be like me. Make sure that you lock the plate lever as well. Now let's talk about the roll axis. This one right here allows the gimbal to move this way. And if you unlock it, you want to avoid anything, any kind of movement that swings the camera left or right. So now this is really left heavy. Like if you're looking at the camera, this is the left side. So it's kind of left heavy. So what you need to do is to use the top, release this, unlock this axis. And because this is left heavy, so you want to push it to the right. You want to push it to the right until it's not left heavy. It's still left heavy, so I'm gonna keep pushing it until it is not. That's why at the beginning I said, try to push the camera, especially the Pocket 6K. It is a really wide camera, all the way to the right, as close as you can to the gimbal, just to make sure that this is not left heavy. If we imagine if the camera is like out here, then you'll have to like push the whole arm all the way, but it's almost done. So this axis, it's a little bit easier to move it. If you use the top handle to lift the camera, it's gonna be a little bit easier to slide the arm. So some micro adjustments. So now it seems like it's balanced. That's why I have the top handle there for another reason, just to make sure that I have something to grab onto in case anything happened. And of course, I want to keep my setup as the way it is. So if I move the entire camera. I don't need to put on the top panel again and everything. So this is the exact same setup that I use for handheld. So now this is pretty good. It's kind of tilting to the right now. So again, some micro adjustment, not a big deal. You just need to be super patient when it comes to balancing a gimbal. So now this is not bad. Okay, so I'm just gonna lock this roll axis. After this roll axis is done, use the lock to lock it. Again, here to click. And now let's talk about the pan axis. This is the one that is probably not the most important axis, but it's the hardest to balance. So if you remove or unlock the lock or the pan axis, you should be able to rotate it, but this doesn't mean that it is balanced. So a lot of people would do this. A lot of people would let's make sure everything is locked safely. Make sure you do this every time. A lot of people would pick up their camera with the gimbal and try to tilt it to the front and see if the camera would swing left or right. This is possible if you're using a light setup. This thing is probably like 30 pounds right now, and it's not safe doing it this way by yourself. So what I've discovered as a way to do it is to put the entire setup on my lap. So I'm gonna do this now. I'm just gonna remove my table. Okay, hopefully that I don't trip anything. So now my table is removed. So what I've discovered, I'm sorry that I'm like showing you my legs, but this is how I did it. So what happened is you just want to make sure that when you are swinging the camera or the gimbal forward, the gimbal is not tilting left or right like this. So what I did was I put the entire setup on my lap and I kind of supported it by putting weight on this side so it doesn't like flip over and then drop your camera and break your lens. So yeah, just be careful. So put some weight on it just to make sure that it doesn't tilt and slide and fall onto the ground. And okay, this is another annoying part. This battery carbon fiber thing, it's always coming loose when you're twisting the gimbal because you just screw it on. So yeah, for some reason, this is another design that I don't really appreciate. So you just need to hold on to the camera like this and unlock the axis, the pan axis. And now you can see that my camera is kind of lens heavy. It's heavy toward the lens side. So I just need to unlock this and slide it to the back until it is not swinging toward the lens. You just do it like this. You just keep doing it like this until this is, oh, now it's back heavy. So just slide back to the front a little bit. Again, put some weight onto the arm so it doesn't drop. Okay, now it's not bad. Okay, so now I can lock it. So as you can see, as long as it's not swinging, oh, now it's kind of back heavy. Let's push it a little bit forward toward the lens. Oops, well, oops, I think I just screwed it up. Okay, nope, a little bit back heavy. This is the hardest one to balance, but yet I don't think this is the most important axis to worry about because this is just controlling the gimbal toward left or right, unless you're doing some really big movement. Whew, I'm sweating. Okay, it seems okay now, so I'm just gonna lock it very quickly. Okay, once this is tightened up, it shouldn't be swinging back or forth. Okay, so now this should be perfectly balanced. And, yep. So you can make sure that everything is tightened up again. Make sure all the levers are tightened up before you unlock all the axes. Okay, I'm just gonna unlock it. Okay, I don't have a table right now, so it's super scary. but that's okay. And the roll axis, unlock it. Okay, so it seems like it's naturally balanced already without me even turning on the gimbal. So now let's try to power on the gimbal and see. So I'm just gonna hold the power button, turns on, and there you go. This is how you balance the Blackmagic Pocket 6K on the Crane 2S. It is possible. And one good news is the settings of this gimbal right now, it's only in low for the motor power. So I tried to adjust it to medium or high. I think it was way too powerful for this setup right here. So it was like shaking and making all the vibration and stuff. So it was like super scary. So now I'm at the low settings for this entire setup. This is a really heavy setup, at least for me already, especially when you're using this like kind of like pistol kind of setup. And one thing you might notice, you might wonder, I have the top panel right here. It will hit this motor. It will, for sure. So what happened is I'm gonna make another video teaching you guys how to lower this motor to the bottom to show you how to have this set up a little bit better so I can go toward the lower angle. You can see that it's almost touching the motor once I try to lower it. So I'm gonna make another video to show you how to move this motor to the bottom. But for now, this is how you balance the gimbal with a Pocket 6K or 4K or anything similar weight. I have the entire full cage on it, battery, like everything with the Sigma 18 to 35. It's perfectly fine and it's just super heavy. My suggestion is just try to be safe when you're trying to balance it first time, because after you balanced it, it's really easy to remove the entire setup like without rebalancing the gimbal afterwards. So this is just almost like a one-time thing unless you change like a different lens. So this is how you do it, and it's possible. If you guys have any questions, leave it in the comment section below. If you're interested in getting this gimbal, I'll leave the link in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one.